Hello and welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Annetta Felix. We begin with the latest on the Nigerian military's battle against terrorism in the country's northeast. The Nigerian Air Force says it has destroyed some Boko Haram structures in various air operations in Borno State. The Air Force spokesman, Air Vice Marshal Olatokunbo Adesanya, said in a statement that the airstrikes were part of the force's new Operation Thunder Strike aimed at the insurgents. Olatokunbo said the first airstrike destroyed a Boko Haram camp at a location 13 nautical miles northeast of Bama. A Boko Haram structure was destroyed while several terrorists were killed during the operation. The second airstrike was also targeted at a Boko Haram camp in Gobara, 15 kilometers northwest of Goza. In the north-central Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has vowed a crackdown on the suspected gunmen responsible for the killings in Biningwari, Kaduna State. The Army's chief pledge comes hours after 10 people were reportedly killed in a fresh attack on the town. Buratai says the Army will be collaborating with other security agencies to end the killings. The Army chief has already inaugurated a fresh military base to the area. He also expressed optimism that the deployment of a new battalion to the base will ensure the return of displaced persons. On the farmers' herders crisis, Nigeria's Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, has announced that the government will organize a stakeholders conference to find a lasting solution to the crisis. The farmers' herders crisis has been blamed for the killings in the north-central part of the country. The minister, who was speaking at a summit in Abuja, said the conference will involve governors of all the affected states and local government chairmen. Also speaking, the governor of Katsina State, Aminu Masari, dismissed the notion that the killings had a religious background.
It is clear that state governors are also major stakeholders if we want to find a lasting solution to this problem. To this end, I want to announce that there will be another forum at which the state governors of the major flashpoints in the country will be the panelists to this same issue of farmers and herders clashes. And we'll also encourage them to please come with their local government executives.
That we are dealing with these governors, as governors in our respective state is an illustration of the true nature of this problem. And that is where the opportunity lies. It is not a religious problem. It is not an ethnic problem. It is not a regional problem.
The governors need to stand on their foot and handle security situation in their state fairly well, because they are number one security personnel, security officers in their states. There are present or militias in both parties. Both the herdsmen and both the farmers do operate militias.
The Joint Health Sector Unions, JHSU, has called off its 4-week-old strike in Lagos, Kano, Yobe, and Niger states. Addressing a press conference in Abuja, JHSU chairman Bio Belemoye Josiah called on all health workers in the 4 states to relax the strike following the implementation of the agreement and terms of settlement demanded by the union in the state. Josiah also asked President Muhammadu Buhari to sack the Minister of Health, Isaac Adewale. He accused Adewale of allegedly taking sides with doctors in the negotiations. Still on health, after more than 4 months after an unprecedented outbreak, Nigeria has finally been declared free of Lassa fever virus. The World Health Organization announced last week that the country has now passed a critical phase of the outbreak. It comes over after more than 100 persons died, even though the number of confirmed cases began to slow in recent weeks. So just what lessons has the country learned, and what can it do to avoid this kind of outbreak in the future? Correspondent Esther Vese has been finding out.
21 states affected, 107 deaths, 9 of them health workers, 428 confirmed cases, 1,900 suspected cases. Now that's the grim statistics of Nigeria's worst Lassa fever outbreak ever. For now, 17 states have exited the active phase of the outbreak, while 4 remain active, leading the World Health Organization to declare Nigeria as having exited the critical phase of the disease. One man who was at the heart of the country's fight against the disease is consultant virologist Professor Sunday Omilabu. He says late reporting by patients who were unaware of the deadly nature of the disease was the initial cause of the high death toll.
Those that died, of course, they didn't respond. They didn't show up on time because there is a limit to what laboratories and responses that government can put can do in terms of reducing the mortality. Once the virus has gone too deep into the system, so there isn't much anybody could do to save such an individual. So that's what has been responsible for the high mortality. And the level of awareness is being raised now that we don't treat fevers as just malaria.
One aspect of this outbreak that got many health experts really concerned is the number of health workers who got affected by the disease. In all, 9 health workers across 8 states died from the disease, while 38 got infected. It's the highest number of casualties to be recorded among health workers in the history of Lassa fever outbreak in Nigeria.
Well, it's not unusual for generals to die at war front. One, it tells you about the severity of the battle. And also, it tells you that even generals are also susceptible. But the question should be, how do we protect ourselves?
Having deaths in the medical officers or in our health workers is a painful thing. It is not something we want at all. In fact, we are so pained about it. And that's why we even raised our level of response to level 3. And that is the highest level, a national level 3. And that's the highest level of response in the country. And that means all facilities, everything at our disposal we use to respond.
After the early deaths between January and mid-March, the toll began to reduce in late March till early April. By this time, enlightenment campaigns and interventions from key agencies like the National Center for Disease Control had started to get to rural communities that are most affected.
There is social engagement ongoing to educate people in the communities on how not to contract the virus. They are aware that rodents are the major carriers of the virus, so they should not expose all their food materials, all the food leftovers. So they should be well kept. They should be protected away from encroachment by rodents. So that social engagement is very key. And then, of course, telling them to maintain an hygienic environment is another factor, which brings down these vectors, the reservoirs of the viruses, the rodents. So it's steer them away.
While the worst might be over for Nigeria for now, experts say extreme vigilance, even among patients who have recovered from the disease, should be the watchword.
Blood, which first of all carry the virus. After a while, the virus in the blood will disappear. And due to neutralizing antibodies developed by the individual. But that doesn't remove the virus from the body fluids. So that individual is protected. So it can never be infected again with that virus. But he can pass this virus to others. And that's why we said we need to maintain constant check on such recovered patients, especially males, to check their semen and then other body fluids in the female partners too. It's been reported that for onward of 3 to 6 months, so there is possibility of circulating the virus in their body fluids.
One drug that has helped Nigeria in the fight against the disease is ribavirin, an antiviral medicine used in the treatment of patients. But for virologist Omilabu, what would ultimately make the difference for the country in its perennial fight against Lassa fever would be the early detection and observance of simple hygiene.
Unlike before, we had a few laboratories that could make a diagnosis. Now, as I'm speaking now, we have about 4 laboratories that are well equipped with skilled personnel And then, of course, in terms of consumables, NCDC is the one distributing the consumables. And we've gone even further to develop an algorithm which all these labs will be using to test for Lassa virus. So government is trying in terms of that. And of course, the preposition of the drug, the Bavirin, has been also fantastic.
On the possibility of getting a vaccine soon, Omilabu had this to say.
The work on the vaccine is ongoing. Because the virus is not stable, it changes with time, and that has actually accounted for the delay in getting a good vaccine that will actually recognize all the available strains. So efforts are ongoing to work around these mutations. Sooner, we're likely to get a good vaccine. And if you don't even get a good vaccine, we can get immunotherapy, developing antibodies that we can use to treat patients.
Lassa fever, also known as Lassa hemorrhagic fever, is a type of viral hemorrhagic fever caused by the Lassa virus. Symptoms of the disease include fever, weakness, headaches, vomiting, and muscle pains. The disease is usually spread to people via contact with urine or feces of an infected multi-mammate rat. Public health officers have often embarked on enlightenment campaigns to educate people on the disease. In some cases, they have even gone a step further to carry out sensitization in markets and rid them of rodents.
eTerra Technologies Limited, a pioneering eco-friendly e-waste recycling company, is advocating new ways to manage electronic waste. The company believes that the dangers associated with the poor handling of these electronic waste materials is poisoning the ecosystem and can be linked to the rising prevalence of diseases like cancer, diabetes, as well as other immune cardiovascular diseases. To tackle this growing menace, eTerra has said it will be organizing an e-waste recycling exposition. This was disclosed by Ifani Ochomnogo, the CEO of eTerra, while speaking at a press conference held at Biomedical Training and Cancer Research Center, Yaba. The event, which is scheduled for May 24th at Oriental Hotel Victoria Island, Lagos, will be used to appreciate the commitment of stakeholders and also create awareness for the general public towards imbibing eco-friendly practices.
Most often, e-waste is not properly handled by trained personnel, we have found. With efficient machinery capable of containing its numerous toxic components. And this results in severe environmental ruin in lieu of air pollution, groundwater contamination, food pollution, and nationwide ecological adulteration. The cumulative effect and menace of improper storage and disposal of e-waste in terms of health, environmental, and confidential data breach as outlined has become too serious to be ignored. We are using this opportunity on Thursday, the 24th of May 2018, to hold Nigeria's first e-waste recycling exposition to recognize the efforts of government agencies, eTerra's partners, eTerra's clients who have shared in its vision and robustly supported us through collaboration and patronage of our services. We therefore have two categories of awards, namely our Green Enablers, to be given to our regulators, government agencies, that have embraced our vision as partners for a safe and sustainable environment. The second category of awards, Green Champions, will be given to companies who have registered the importance of environmentally friendly e-waste management in Nigeria and strengthened our philosophy of operating their business in an eco-friendly manner. At the event, we will also be showcasing to the best example of the state-of-the-art machinery for e-waste management. So that's what the exposition is for.
The Supreme Court has ordered the former managing director of the defunct Intercontinental Bank PLC, Erastus Akingbola, to return to the Federal High Court in Lagos to face his trial on a 5 billion naira fraud charge. His trial was prematurely terminated in April 2012 by Justice Charles Achibong, whose decision in the case later earned him a compulsory retirement from the bench. A 5-man panel of the Apex Court, led by Justice Tanka Mohammed, unanimously affirmed the February 2015 judgment of the Court of Appeal in Lagos, which had overturned the federal court's decision striking out the charges. Business News is up next on News Now. Please stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
Now, yeah?
Yes, Oga.
Okay.
Where I go come find 300 naira change?
I better try look for change now. When they do business? Hey, Timmy. I did, bro. I be. I beg, give me 200 naira. Make I take sort out this guy. If let's say no get change.
Take it, give us.
I said 200.
Give her 100 naira.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree to pay 200.
How much you think they carry people from that place we carry on the chair?
Okay.
No, they touch me.
Now 100 naira. He agreed to pay.
Because that was what you said was the fair. Why you not go pay you? Why you they extort your customer? You see this corruption, what would they hear for news? They see for people everywhere. Now be this so. This is corruption, not in our country.
Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
I am Esther Vese. Welcome to Business News. The National Economic Council, NEC, says between 2010 and 2015, some government revenue-generating agencies underpaid the Federation accounts the sum of 526 billion naira and $21 billion. The governor of Gombe State, Ibrahim Dinkwambo, made a disclosure while briefing State House correspondents after the meeting of the council, which was presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the presidential villa in Abuja. He said the affected agencies were exposed following KPMG's presentation of the technical audit report of the agencies to the NEC. Now, Dinkwambo said the NEC's ad hoc committee has agreed to extend the audit to June 2017.
The revenue-generating agencies, the audit was for those that pay into Federation account and those that pay for federal government agencies. We are talking about Federation account because those that pay by law to federal government are the responsibility of the federal government. So all the entities in the budget that are supposed to pay revenues into government coffers were checked. Up to June 2015, that was the cutoff, from 2010 to 2015. But one of the resolution of NEC today is to extend the audit to June 2017. So the audit will continue for the remaining agencies. So like I said, it's NNPC, NPDC, DPR, Customs, Federal Internal Revenue Services, MPA, Maritime Authority, all the revenue-generating agencies. And the details of the infringements are contained in the report. A subcommittee will be set up, which will be an arm of the legal committee of NEC that will look into details of this kind of infringements and make sure that those issues that are criminal in nature require prosecution will be handled by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation.
The governors have also agreed to probe the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. They're accusing the corporation of inflating figures on petroleum production by almost 50% and are demanding a probe of all subsidy payment from 2015 till date. Disclosing this, the chairman of the Governors Forum, Abdulaziz Yari, said the governors have directed the Minister of Finance to collaborate with the Department of Petroleum Resources and the NNPC to put tracking devices on every truck in order to monitor fuel discharge.
Yes, the items was brought off on discussion, but it's still referred back to the same committee I chaired which we are doing the nitty-gritty with the NNPC in terms of the remittance. Don't forget, the reason why we have got it correct sometimes in 2016 on the NNPC side, because the oil prices are too low. So it's easy for everyone to get oil into the country and then make his profits. So when the price starts jacking up, then the marketers start adjusting back because they need to have a template of cost recovery, what they had said, oh, how are they going to augment the difference from the pump price to what they are importing, because cannot be equal. Our problem is the number, the volume. That is what is not acceptable, which we are working with the governor. So many decisions were brought in place, but by next month, definitely we're going to adopt position. Either the governors to take care of their subsidy in their own respective state according to their consumption, or we look at either way. Because, for instance, if you say we pay 800 billion as subsidy, you ask, whom are we paying this subsidy to? 800 billion, and if you look at the infrastructure development capital program of federal government is about 1.1 trillion. Closely 70% of what you are spending in developing the economy, because if there's no infrastructure development, then you cannot talk of development of economy. So now 800 billion is a huge amount that we have to look at it, who is benefiting from this 800 billion. So we are coming up with a strategy. We are going to meet within the month of May, June. So by next meeting, we'll definitely come up with the position of the government at both levels on what we are going to do with numbers of volume of bringing into the country, and what the state and federal government collaborate to check this issue.
Oil prices held firm on Friday on strong demand, ongoing supply cuts led by OPEC, and looming U.S. sanctions against major crude exporter Iran. Brent crude futures were at $79.55 a barrel, while U.S. crude futures were at $71.65 a barrel, and that's up 16 cents from their last settlement. Now, with the aim of tightening the market, crude prices have received broad support from voluntary supply cuts led by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Recording its fourth market day in the negative territory, the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed the week with the major market index declining by 0.44%, and the market capitalization closing at 14.660 trillion naira. As Guarantee Trust Bank, Sky Bank, Fidelity Bank, and Sovereign Insurance dominated the top traders table, Better Glass, Stanbic IBTC, O&O, and UBA dominated the gainers table. Closing the week's losers chart, Total, Mobil, Dangote Cement, and Unilever made the top four, leading the losers table. In summary, 5.077 billion naira worth of shares were traded in 3,975 deals. And that's business news this week. We will be right back. Please stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
Madam. Madam, welcome. Okay, madam, no worry. When you deliver the balance, we'll give you the goods.
No problem, no problem. All right, so now well done.
Thank you.
Hey, Oga, I still say she don't bring money. Maybe we use this one for him now.
She wants mahogany, not white wood.
Oga, our work now to join wood together, deliver whatever to customer, put the remaining profit for pocket.
Abba, this is corruption, not in my country. Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
To foreign news now, the United Nations Human Rights Chief says Israel used wholly disproportionate force against Palestinian border protests, which have left over 100 people dead. Some 60 Palestinians were killed by Israeli forces on Monday in the 7th consecutive week of border protests, largely orchestrated by Hamas, which politically controls the Gaza Strip. Reid Rad al-Husseini told the meeting in Geneva that Gazans were effectively caged in a toxic slum and Gaza's occupation by Israel had to end. Israel's ambassador said Gaza's militant Islamist rulers had deliberately put people in harm's way. The UN meeting is considering calling for an independent investigation. Congo has confirmed 11 new cases of Ebola in the northwest town of Bikoro. A health ministry spokeswoman said, widening an outbreak that the World Health Organization believes has already infected 44 people and killed 15. The WHO has already said that the country faces a very high public health risk from Ebola because the disease has been confirmed in a patient in a big city. The reassessment came after the first confirmed case in Mbandaka, a city of around 1.5 million people on the banks of the Congo River in the northwest of the country. The case raised concerns that the virus, previously found in more rural areas, will be tougher to contain and could reach downstream to the capital, Kinshasa, which has a population of 10 million. In sport, Nigerian B head coach Salisu Yusuf has invited 23 players for a May 22 hybrid friendly against Atletico Madrid. The fixture, built for the Godswill at Pabio Stadium, will see the Super Eagles battle the Spaniards, who dismissed Olympique Marseille 3-0 to win the Europa League on Wednesday. The squad is a blend of foreign and local-based professionals, with Kelechi Nwakali, Ojo Olonrileke, Musa Mohammed, and Dayo Ojo making the cut. Jose Mourinho will wait until the last minute before deciding whether Manchester United striker Romelu Lukaku is fit to feature in Saturday's FA Cup final against Chelsea. Lukaku had missed United's last 3 matches after suffering an ankle injury against Arsenal in April. The Belgium striker is in a race against time to be fit for the Wembley showdown with his former club. And United manager Mourinho, possibly hoping to keep Chelsea guessing, said on Friday that he remains uncertain if Lukaku will be available. Juventus head coach Massimiliano Allegri expects to stay at the club and is already thinking ahead to next season. The 50-year-old has been one of the main names linked with the Arsenal manager's job following the news that Arsene Wenger will be leaving the Gunners. Allegri has always maintained that he's happy at Juventus, though he intends to meet with the club's manager as early as next week to begin planning for 2018 to the 2019 season. That has been News Now on TV360. I am Annetta Felix. Thank you for watching.